Okay, welcome back. So we're going to cover Batgirls 18, and because I always like to supply myself with free labor, I am not doing the recap. So Shayna, you can take that over.
All right. So the summary for Batgirls 18. While interviewing or while investigating an old Saints hideout, the Batgirls meet with Officer Brooks to look at a letter that the sniper has sent to the GCPD. In the letter, the sniper demands the GCPD arrest and prosecute the Batgirls or risk the safety and livelihood of more Gotham City citizens. Unfazed, Babs, Steph, and Cass return to the clock tower, unwilling to turn themselves in. They decide to lie low for the time being. Meanwhile, Commissioner Montoya sends Brooks to the sniper's nest, where he is eventually visited by Barbara, in disguise, who gives him a flash drive containing a deep fake of Steph and Cass turning themselves into the GCPD. Brooks and Babs also discover an overlooked bullet hole, suggesting the presence of a second shooter. At the Gotham City Dam, Stephen Cass gets some encouragement from Batman before leaving to stop a robbery at the Clover Credit Union, called in by none other than Alicia. Steph and Cass successfully stop the robbery without revealing themselves. When they return to their loft, Babs calls and tells them to switch on the TV. On the local news, Steph and Cass watch themselves in full Batgirls gear be escorted by the GCPD as the voice of the newscaster states that they have given into the sniper's demands and turned themselves in. Later that evening, Grace visits an unconscious Rocky in the hospital. Still grieving and still blaming herself, Grace records a new podcast episode sharing her feelings about Rocky and the shooting. Inspired by her right-hand man, Grace organizes a protest and marches down the streets of the Hill in defense of the Batgirls. That's Batgirls 18 in a nutshell.
There you go. Thank you. And you did it Tom Panarese style because he also writes in a notebook.
Cool. I didn't realize that. I loved it. I love writing by hand.
Yeah.
Very anti-tech and all.
Well, that's
That
good.
wasn't apparent enough at this point.
Yeah, well, it's good because you'll never be attacked by the Brainiac.
Good point.
So if I were to start with this cover here, seems like the cover's a spoiler question mark because I was waiting for Gun Bunny and Gunhawk to appear in the issue and they sure don't, nor were they named. So thoughts on what happened here? Lack of communication?
Yeah, I'm guessing it was a spoil. It's a spoiler. Maybe it was a mistake. I was very confused by this cover. And then, yeah, when they didn't show up in the issue, it's just like, okay. And
yeah.
and I was just gonna say, and I generally really I've enjoyed the Corona covers, but this one I'm like, yeah. And I guess maybe because like Steph and Cass are just kind of in the back. You don't really see them, so
Yeah.
sad about that.
Yeah, there were a couple of cool vintage, not vintage, variant covers, but I just showed this one. My only thought is that maybe the timeline or their script was slightly different or what they were asking for before they knew that their book was being canceled. And so the cover is like accelerating that timeline, whereas the internal does not. That's the only thing I can think of. But this is like a really bad communication error because now it's like, I guess they're going to be revealed in the ultimate issue and it should have been a shock and now it's not. So
Unless this is an entire misdirect or really poor planning, and it turns out
yeah,
we don't see him. Maybe the snipers are someone else.
maybe it is. I mean, the entire issue they keep talking about a CC, that a CC is the most likely
Oh yeah,
candidate
that's
for the
right.
sniper. So maybe this is a misdirect. Yes.
But even Barbara doesn't feel very confident in that assessment. You find
That
out.
is true. Now it has been a long time, so they kept saying that Assisi's missing, he's still at large, and I was like, where did we see this last? And so I had to do some research. I actually did research on my end, and so Batgirls 8 with that whole mission to help see her out in the Iceberg Lounge. He is at large at the end, but I do think an editor's note would have actually been nice. There is one in here, but it was just a see last issue one. But here it would have been nice. And I guess CC is also in a portion of Catwoman number 45. She interacts with the Batgirl team, which I didn't even know about in that particular issue. So okay, where to begin? Where to begin? Now, I will say, because Alicia pops up here, I don't know if you have any opinions on Alicia, but I tweeted out because Donovan said, "Oh, her wife appears," in this. I was like, "Oh my gosh, finally, her wife appears." He was thinking this issue, this person right
I
here,
thought so too,
and
actually.
so, but that is not
No, it's
her
not.
wife. Okay, it could be. It's not though.
I don't
Given
think
her,
so.
like, as she leaves the bank, where would her wife be? Why is she at the clock tower? So I tweeted the writers and I said, I have to know, where's Alicia's wife? Okay. It was retweeted by Donovan. The tweet was liked by Michael W. Conrad, but no one responded. Liking my tweet is not an answer. I don't think that they know Alicia has a wife. I may have been the first to tell them.
Might be true. Might be
I'm
true.
I mean, I don't know. You know, because Kate and Maggie were not allowed to get married, you kind of have to hold on to, like, oh, look, two lesbians got to get together and get married in DC Comics. But now it's like erased because Alicia is just hanging out with her gal pal as if she doesn't have a life at home. So it's very unfortunate. So unanswered, I can retweet that out, but that's probably going to seem passive aggressive. So I guess I'll just let it lie dead. And maybe if I have them on to interview at the end of their arc, which I would like to ask, maybe I'll ask them point blank if where her wife is. Okay. This whole story does it. Have you seen the Chris Nolan Batman films?
Yes.
Okay. Did this at all seem eerily familiar to The Dark Knight, where Joker is saying, I think it's Joker saying that, he's going to kill citizens until Batman reveals himself, that sort of thing?
It did not.
Okay.
That did not remind me of that.
Okay. Okay. Portrayal of Montoya. Some people are upset. Some people, well, that's all I hear about is that Donovan told me people are upset. Do you have any thoughts on Montoya's portrayal as commissioner in this particular comic and how she's very anti-vigilantes?
I don't mind it,
Ooh.
but I also didn't see her as her being anti-vigilante. She does seem to, in that conversation she has with Brooks, it's almost like I think she's in a real tough spot as commissioner. And so she can't be on the record saying she sides with the Batgirls and sides with vigilantes, but I do feel like she kind of gives Brooks, she kind of lets it pass with him. And even though she kind of is talking about, she makes these comments about, at sort of like taking that kind of initiative to like go get the letter to them and all that. And she's acting like she doesn't approve of it. And I think on the record she can approve on approve it. But she doesn't outright tell him, at least I don't remember her outright saying anything like, hey, we should not side with the bat, or we
Mm,
should get them in here. It feels like she was kind of being ambiguous on purpose, I guess, because she's in a position where she can't be on the record saying she supports vigilantes because of her position as commissioner, but it
yeah.
doesn't mean like she can't allow the people under her to do that, even if it's just sort of hush hush, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I kind of got that vibe from this conversation that they
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
She
She
wasn't
does. Yeah.
outright, she wasn't outright telling Brooks no, and we can't, but being more like, well, it's I'm not necessarily gonna like let you off the hook, but I'll also maybe turn the other turn turn my eyes away
Mm-hmm.
from anything you do. 'Cause I think
Yeah,
she could be a lot stricter with him if she really felt that way, or she could be more verbal about it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've gotten into it before. Yeah, she does say it's a bad look for the department to
Yeah.
be signing with them, but doesn't necessarily do it. And she does seem like a jerk just because she puts him in wherever, the crow's nest or something, the sniper's nest. And he's closing in on 16 hours. But I wondered if she knew like this would be a good opportunity to meet up with the Batgirls
Yeah.
if that,
I don't know if she knew or not,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm probably just gonna keep talking, rambling, and saying the same thing over and
Okay.
over. So I'll stop.
Uh, I just noticed from this image that there's an art error. Can you spot the art error?
Art error.
Putting you on the spot. I guess
I
think
don't.
about Barbara Gordon and her Birds of Prey.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think of that's weird is, but I think this has been, I don't want to say retcon, but I feel like it's not paid attention to anymore. But are you talking about the handles on the wheel on the back of
Oh
the wheelchair?
yeah. Yeah.
Has
Yeah,
that
not
still
paid
been?
attention
I
to.
haven't been paying attention to that in this series. Has that still been prevalent where there's usually not handles on the back?
There's usually not.
There's,
I feel like more often than not I catch this mistake now
mhm,
that there are handles. Um, yes.
yeah,
I can't say when the last time was, but we know that her ability of her legs is kind of up and down in this particular run.
that's
So,
true.
but oh, Batman says a nice word. He says that he's proud. He's proud of Steph. He's proud of them both. So sometimes Batman isn't a jerk. Always have
Sometimes. But
to.
so I have a question about
Oh,
this for you
yeah.
because so before they go visit Batman, Barbara talks about him having a tip for them, but I
Mhm.
don't know what that tip is because all we see is this moment of encouragement.
Yes, I agree.
But do you know what the tip is?
No, no, I don't know what the tip was. I was also wondering because of
No.
this. They have zero clues. And then he just talks about the trick. Anything else? Oh, helping. Nope, there was no tip relayed. So I think that was just a writing error.
Hmm.
Um, Cass, I think, has an is it this one? Oh, yes. An unhealable, uncurable case of imposter syndrome because here she's asking for validation. Are you sure I did okay? Stealth isn't exactly my strong suit. And Cass does validate her and say no one saw you. You're better than you think, Steph. Um it I mean we're
Yeah,
one
I
issue away from the end. What's Steph going to be like at the end of Batgirls 19? Still wondering, do I belong on this team?
yeah, I mean it just feels old at this point. Like she got encouragement from Batman, saying Batman was like, "I'm proud of you," and now she's still doubting herself,
Yeah.
and then Cass talks about learning from her, but we never really got to see that.
Mm-mm.
Like there were examples of that. That would have been really cool to see if we could see the ways Cass could have learned from Stephanie
Yeah.
too.
I guess she learned to be fun because I mean we see her in that unicorn
But
onesie. I
she
can't remember what that was that she got at the first issue.
That was from the first issue though,
Yeah,
yeah. It wasn't
yeah,
necessarily because of Steph or anything.
that's true. Yeah. Do you like Stephanie's shirt?
Uh
I, there
so
might
I,
be
I have two
other.
minds about it. One, I like it because it's Black Canary and I love Black Canary. But two, I really don't like the self-referential merchandise and t-shirts that you see a lot now. Like I get it, it's a joke, and
Yeah.
why wouldn't you have merchandise for your superheroes and you know this story because it's a capitalist society and stuff, but the self-referential stuff just like it almost takes me out of the story because then I just
Oh,
feel like I'm really just like consuming a product, not
I
like a
see.
story. So
I do enjoy it. I feel like this is the first time we've seen it in this book, but I do have fun with it when I see it in Nightwing because that's frequently where I see it. So the back rolls turn themselves in, but I guess the sniper's okay with 2/3 of the back rolls and doesn't question that Barbara did not turn her, or the redheaded one did not turn herself in.
yeah, I had the
Alrighty.
same question. I even went back to issue 17 to make sure there were 3 bullets, like I counted correctly, and there
Yeah.
were. So I I
Yep.
don't know why Barbara is not part of this deep
Indeed.
fake.
Yep. Wow. And then Grace, which you said in your email you're interested in seeing this happen. So here we learn because it seemed like she had taken a drink in the previous issue because the
Right.
bottle was open, the glass was filled, but she doesn't, or she says that she hasn't taken a drink though. It's been very hard. Is Grace giving Rocky a little too much credit here? Is this a lot of say but not show with these characters? I mean, I don't really recall him ever pushing back on what she did or said, but she's given him a lot of credit.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would have been really great to have seen this develop throughout the last 17 issues. It's kind of like with Grace's alcoholism too. It would have been nice if we saw the negative impacts that had on her life before she got sober. It would have made that moment feel stronger, just like I think this moment could feel stronger if we saw more of that relationship
Mm-hmm.
between them and him being the person she says he is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it was his responsibility to do an intervention?
I don't think it was his responsibility to do an intervention, mostly because I don't even remember him being that distinctive of a character or caring about her really beyond just like working together in the first place. Not since like last issue, I was like, oh, this okay, because that was here all along.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't think he was responsible for an intervention or Grace being sober, but he could have been if that was something if they wanted to write it in, they could have again written that relationship to they could have shown that relationship more early on. And
Yeah.
they that could have been a great way to do it with Grace with alcoholism.
Yes, yeah, because I mean, the drinking was seeded very early on. I think it was even
Yeah, it was.
seeded outside of this book when we first saw her in whatever the lead up to Batgirls. And I am glad that it took this trajectory in terms of like, oh, we're treating this seriously because I was starting to get annoyed with kind of the flippant attitude of her drinking. It was all about jokes, and even Cass was like,
Mhm.
"Well, that lady's messed up." I'm like, maybe you should do something about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here we have it. But yes, it ends in as I would like it to end, of course. Well, whoever that is. Well, I guess it's Gun Bunny. In some activism, some marching. So free the Batgirls, defend the hill. We are all Batgirl. So there you go. Any other thoughts on this issue?
Yeah. What do you think of before we get to seeing Grace the protest and she's got
Oh,
the podcast recordings going in. So what do you think about this
yeah.
moment where she's loading the shotgun? What's that? What's going on there?
I am
Because
concerned.
on
Yes.
the during when we see her protesting, I'm like, she's not holding a shotgun. I don't know where she'd
No.
hide a shotgun.
Mm.
So why is she loading it
I'm
here?
not sure. So I imagine there's a total disconnect because I thought that there was going to be a violent protest happening because
Hmm.
you go from here and then the next time. So I thought, oh my gosh, is she's they're about to violently seize back the hill, that sort of thing. And then oh no, we don't have that. So I'm a bit confused why she has it. What's going to happen? Maybe it's in her back pocket. Um, I assume this is the gun that she bought from the gang that looks like the mutants in the previous issue. But I'm worried that it's going to get out of control and something bad's going to go down. We only have one issue left. So I don't know how this maybe Grace is going to play a really big part, but is someone going to die in the next issue? Like a member of the community, and it's going to be Grace's fault, and then what does that yeah, I'm worried. Well, I guess this is again very topical, and how if we do want to protest or be activists, is there a right way to go about it and a wrong way to go about it? And does she think that this is maybe the right way, or is this just backup and protection in case something goes down? Because she's choosing to hold a sign first, but she's painted literally painted a target on herself. So maybe she's trying to
Yeah.
be bait and then help the Batgirls out by shooting the perpetrator. I don't know. Do you have thoughts since you asked the question?
I don't know, but I'm interested to find out. It's what I really like about this arc that was started in the last issue is I think it's doing a good job in painting sort of a really complicated picture, and just sort of there's multiple angles, and you brought it up yourself just now about peaceful protest, violent protest. Is the gun for self-defense? Is the gun for something more insidious?
Yeah.
And then you also have to consider the deep fake. So you had that image of Steph and Cass turning themselves in and Renee making that statement. But we know that didn't really happen. But I assume Grace is reacting to that, obviously, because it's like we need to free the Batgirl. So what's going to happen next issue when Renee Montoya is like, what, like what? They didn't turn themselves into me, because I assume she's not going to
Right.
know,
Yep.
right? Because the flash drive, and I assume, and I didn't realize that till this morning when I wrote the summary, but that flash drive Barbara gives Officer Brooks, I assume was the deep fake to air. That's not explicitly stated, but I don't know what else that flash drive would be. So like I think Officer Brooks is in on it, but I doubt he told Montoya.
But how can the
So what's gonna
commissioner?
happen next issue?
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I just wondered how the commissioner could not be aware of what's going on in her own office, especially because she was up, she headed a press conference.
Yeah, but was that part of the deep fake? That's what I'm
Oh,
wondering. I
oh,
think it's part of the
interesting.
deep fake,
I
because I
see.
don't think I don't think Montoya would, because they didn't actually turn themselves in. So unless Montoya is in on it,
Yeah.
which I guess from this issue, I would just assume she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe she is. Maybe we'll find out next issue she is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of interesting questions that it'll be cool to see the answers to next issue, if they even get
Yes.
answered. Who knows?
Who knows? It's just crazy that this is the last arc and next issue is the last issue.
Man, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. And look, I found a little purple box. Those have really calmed down. This one just gives us the location.
I loved the purple boxes this issue because they just gave locations
Oh
and
man.
nothing else. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fine.
That's another
Don't give me
question.
any inner thoughts.
Yeah. I would love to ask the writers about the purple boxes.
I wonder if they got some notes about toning it down.
Yeah, who knows? They listened to my show where I asked who's writing this purple box. Okay, well, out of 10 cup nudes, what would you give this issue?
Actually, I have one more
Oh, please, yes.
thing. Can I
Please. Yeah.
say this is kind of just totally, it's more or less just superficial, but it's
Okay.
really bothers me. What do you think about Grace's eye patch and how it
Oh, the eye
like goes
patch.
under her hair? Is that like makes no sense to me? But
Interesting.
shouldn't it go over her hair? Like how does it how does it cling to her head if it's, I
I
don't know.
guess that's true. Well, I mean, I have an eye patch that I use for Halloween, so
Okay, good
I could
try.
try that out later, and then I'll let the people
And
know.
then let me know
But
because it really is getting
yeah,
to me.
I think it's possible.
Yeah, maybe it depends on the haircut.
Yeah. One side is easier than the other, like this her left side. You would think, I think it does need a peek out somehow. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll let the people know if it's feasible. But I think a lot of it, I think the ears are probably going to take a lot of the brunt of the rubber
I
band or
guess so.
whatever. Yeah. Any other superficial?
Okay, no, that was that was all.
I think it might be possible, but I can't
Okay,
prove it
that's all
until
I
I
wanted to know. I'm not
Okay.
that smart, so I'm just like, well,
No.
maybe I can't understand how this works.
Yeah. No, I think it's a valid criticism and I appreciate you bringing it to the fore. I do appreciate that. Now out of 10 cup nudes, what would you give this?
I give this I give this like a solid 6.
A solid 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The bar is low for Batgirls. As much as I love these
Oh,
issues,
yeah.
the bar is still low. So this is like a 6, which is pretty high for my Batgirls ratings.
Yeah. Um the Joe absence is it looms large. Yeah, I'm vacillating between 6.5 and a 7. I'm always a little more generous than this one. So, 6.75 out of 10 cup nudes, I guess. Yeah. So yes, very interesting. Can't believe the next one. And we're spoiled. We're spoiled as to who the villains are. So that's unfortunate for us. Well, we're making our way. We're still lubed up. What are you reading anything currently that you would like to recommend to people?
Hold on. What am I reading? I currently, it's pretty good. I actually have it on my desk right here. This is for a book club I'm in. It's called The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. It might be a little incorrect in my pronunciation. It's like I feel like pirates and fantasy. It's about a female Muslim pirate,
Okay.
and it's a cool adventure, and it's pretty well written, interesting adventure story. Kind of gives me a little Odyssey vibe for the
Oh,
classics people.
yeah.
So
We like those
it's
sorts
pretty
of
good
people
so
here.
far. I mean, I've only
Okay.
read a third of it, but I like it. And then I always read a fiction and a nonfiction at the same time. And right now
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading this nonfiction. It's called Code 2.0, and it's all about the development of the internet
Oh,
and sort of legal considerations and considerations with law about sort of the or future regulations that are may come about as
okay.
technology develops and
Mm-hmm.
the internet develops and stuff with anonymity and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, does this give you nightmares?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
You went
But
in fully knowing how you were going to react, but you pursued it.
yeah, it was exactly what I wanted because I mean, I remember I've been on the internet since the 90s and I was a kid, and it's very different now. And so how things have changed, where it used to be a space that was very anonymous and kind of everyone assumed there was this anonymity. And now since social media, which is this huge like turning point, you see that it's becoming less and less about anonymity. And so now there are all these interesting arguments and debates about how you can hold people accountable online by not letting them be anonymous, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very interesting to sort of follow that, especially as like an adult now and remembering what it was like.
Do you have any opinions on cancel culture? We
I
don't we
do. I
I mean, that's
do.
also a
I
whole thing,
I
but
do, but that is maybe that's not an appropriate thing to talk about on your show.
well, that's how the anonymous I mean, that is a regulation there. That's keeping holding people accountable to a certain extent.
It is, and I think when you look at sort of social media and how it gives people a platform and access to, arguably thousands and millions of people, it's important to consider the ramifications of giving people a platform of that size and then not being held accountable.
Mhm.
It's very different, because back in the day, we got our news via the radio or the television, and it was these more centralized, more centralized and I'm trying to think of how to explain it, but it was kind of this more it was centralized. It was apparently journalism was more researched. You had stuff like the FCC to keep things regulated, so appropriate content was only allowed. Those you had certain regulations in place. Whether you agree with those regulations or not is a whole nother discussion. But when you can go on Twitter, you can amass a following of, you know, a million people or like 50,000 people, and you can say whatever you want and people will listen to you. That has huge ramifications because you could just be spitting out
Mhm.
nothing that's researched, nothing that's fact checked, and then that influence that has on society, because now you have this huge base that's just taking your word for it and
Mhm.
assuming that you have all the correct data. Did any of that make sense of what
Oh,
I said?
no, it's
Like, I
no,
can't
I mean, yes,
articulate any of this
is
accurately
another big
because I was
topic.
not prepared to talk about
I
this.
know, yes. Thank you. Welcome to my show where I ask questions that you are not aware that you're about to
Fair
answer.
enough.
This is all, internal misogyny, cancel culture. You'll come back on for full episodes on those. Yes, I got into a debate. What were we talking about? It must have been like a Find Your Joy sort of episode that I did with Harry and Don for their show, Quinoa, and it was like a more positive thing, and I said just like three things that you can kind of I think one was like someone that you really like, that could be like on Idol, you could kind of put them up there. Something that you like that is problematic, and then something that you like always go back to that is that brings you joy. So what I always go back to, I said Gilmore Girls and You Got Mail, which I can just watch You've Got Mail console. I don't know. I just love that film. And Gilmore Girls, I can hop around as I want and rewatch things. Something I like that's problematic is Gone with the Wind. And then I talked about Megan Rapinoe, and we did talk about like Twitter and like canceling came up, and I think Harry's like very anti-canceling. Um, I can't remember what Donovan's thing is, and I said, canceling can become a problem, but I do think it holds people accountable. But I think there needs to be an opportunity for redemption. So I think it goes back to that. So if people recognize, like they said this terrible thing, and they recognize that and they own it and also apologize to the parties that are involved, I think that there's no reason why they couldn't be brought back into the fold. If it's consistent behavior, that's a whole nother conversation. But just the thought that you could get X'd out of society, is an interesting thought of like maybe you should be more careful with your words and what's being said. There was something else I was going to bring up in regards to cancel culture, but now I've forgotten it. So
So I do I agree with you. I think it kind of has to be looked at from a case by case
yeah,
basis, and you can't just be like, yes, someone says something bad, or God forbid someone said something bad when they were young and didn't know
right.
any better. Like,
Yeah,
just imagine how much you change as a person when you grow.
yeah,
And just imagine all the insensitive things you've said. Like, I know I've said so many
100%.
things I would never say now.
Yeah.
and to be held accountable for that and to lose your livelihood, like that is death, that is execution. So I think you have to be
Yeah.
case by case basis, and
Yeah.
it's not to not hold people responsible, but I don't want to live in a world where you can't redeem yourself,
Yeah.
because I'm irredeemable. We're all irredeemable at
Sure,
that
sure.
point.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, I mean, I certainly, yeah, from a personal standpoint as well, like, even if you go back in my archives, I started this in 2010. I didn't have the same political mind that I do now, or, like, the same peoples that I, interact with now or care about now are not the same people back then. Like, undoubtedly, I said racist things, um, absolutely, on Spider-Man Crawl Space. My intent may have been different, but the impact is still the same, and I've owned up to that. And then I probably would consider this transphobic, of like how I spoke about Alicia when she first came onto the page. And that's like very different now. So absolutely. And I think back to that, and I think I've, probably apologized and everything, but just thinking that someone starting off in 2010 might click off immediately because of that stuff. And I was like, but wait, here's where I am now. So you absolutely have to own up to it, and apologize,
Oh yeah.
and just move forward and learn from that. Educate yourself. And then, oh, I remember what it was now. So Natalie Portman had recently been talking about, I guess the Time's Up organization is like shutting down. And because there's like some scandal, because I guess some of the board members were like in the past affiliated with Andrew Cuomo or something like that. I don't have the details to pull up now, but she was even talking about that, like that it's really hard because, if someone makes a mistake in the past, it's now like taken down an entire thing that has served a great purpose. So where is kind of that redemption there? So I think that's just, I mean, I don't know if they've like owned up to that or what that personal thing is, but I'm like, oh yeah, that is problematic, isn't it? I don't think I have any more other big questions for you. Any other reading? Yeah, you're nearly done. Any other reading recommendations?
No, that's
Okay.
what I got. That's what I've been reading lately. Recommend both.
Okay.
Especially, yeah, the Code 2.0 if you're
Okay.
interested in like
Really
regulation of the internet, and
being scared.
yeah,
Yeah.
check it out.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's kind of related, but I was playing video games with Harry one night, and I was talking about socialism because socialism doesn't seem so bad, to be honest. But I was talking about it, and I don't fully know everything about it, but just from what I've seen. And then later that week, I got a text that asked me to take a survey on socialism. So I was scared that
Have you
I did not take it. I just deleted it swiftly, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's just listening to me. What if like the federal agents burst down my door because I talked about socialism being
it
attractive?"
might happen. I mean, have you gotten those personalized YouTube ads from stuff you've been talking about? I have a coworker. We always joke about how much her mom loves pub cheese, and then I started getting pub cheese ads on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
Scary,
It is
scary
scary.
out
It is
there. Big
scary.
Brother's watching.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so for me, I think the last one I talked about is 1619 Project, which I still recommend. I read a play called POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass Are Seven Women Trying to Keep Him Alive by Selena Fillinger.
That
I
sounds
highly
hilarious.
recommend it. It does say my least favorite word, which is the C word, multiple times, but there's a purpose to it, but still. I would love to be in this play if they performed it around where I am, but it was very hilarious. One of my friends, former student who's living in New York City, got to see it with the people who were in there, Vanessa Williams and Julianne Hough. And yeah, there's a great cast in there. Also read Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. And I can't remember why I read that. I know that it was mentioned on something. I was like, oh, I should read this. I think I've seen the film, but I kind of want to rewatch it. The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan, which was again recommended by my friend in New York City. And at first, I had no idea where it was going. And then it got to a very scary place, kind of in a Handmaid's Tale sort of speculative fiction where if CPS takes your child away, you have to go to this school to create these good mothers, and they give you this like robot child, and like really terrible stuff is happening. But the fathers aren't. Oh, there were some fathers, but it was crazy. So I do recommend that, but it's also scary. A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, which I don't recommend. Um, But you can listen to Required Reading with Tom and Sal. That was his pick, and he said, with his sincerest apologies, he sent those to me after I was saying stuff about it. We both did not like it. You might like it because it sounds offensive because I just said not nice things, but the characters are pretty flawed and realistic in that way, which I do know that you like because of the
Yeah,
Sally Rooney. So
that's true.
maybe and it is interesting. The narrative is very it's going all over the place. Each chapter is a different character. Things are intertwining. It's not chronological, kind of punk rock era stuff. But anyways, there you go. And then finally, Convergence by Zoraida Cordova, which is one of the Star Wars High Republic. And I really like this. The High Republic has been a bit boring for me, but that one I liked. It wasn't as much about the Jedi than it was about, I think, political intrigue and these two worlds that are just embroiled in a never-ending battle, and how do you solve that, and these two heirs coming together and getting married, which I felt was very topical with like Ukraine and Russia and all that stuff. So I enjoyed it. Recommend that. I think that's it. Do you want anyone to find you? To find
Absolutely not.
Okay, that is fine.
That's the
So
way I like it. No
that's
one can find me on the internet.
okay, so do not follow Shayna on the Twitters. Though I do know you're there because you trolled that
Did that
one
one
poll.
day.
And boy, people know that I hold on to things. I hold grudges. And so I remember that. Okay, well, you can send if you have comments, you can send them to me. I forwarded both of actually, yeah, I forwarded yours and Donovan's to Ian. So if anyone has any comments to say about you, I'll forward it. So send any
Yeah,
questions or
that's fine.
comments. Yeah, okay. To Batgirl@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook, follow it on Twitter at Batgirl subscribe to the show for uncut version where we talk about getting lubed up. Follow the Batman universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. I mean, support. Hey, I've got a male audience. I've gotta keep them tantalized.
Fair
Support the
enough.
Batman universe by subscribing to Patreon. And once again, thanks to My High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl or for the Barbara Gordon podcast. Thank you so much. Thanks for being a constant writer in, and thank you for coming on and co-hosting this with me.
Yeah, thanks, Stella. I hope I didn't drag too much mud to this beautiful temple you've constructed to Barbara Gordon.
That's well, you do have a problematic ship, but we can
Oh,
address that at a later date. We only allow people who ship Dick and
yes.
Babs.
Okay, never mind. I take it back. I take back what I said.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Now, since we've gotten to that, did you find any eroticism in that image that you'd be like, oh, this is an example of the last one, basically, of her like holding her in after the Brainiac separation, that would give you evidence that this is a ship to have?
Oh no, I totally admit that Dinah Babs is all subtextual. I don't think
Okay,
there was any intention to make
I
it
see.
canon. I don't really think anyone who is writing shipped them. I just like the idea of them together. So
Okay. Okay.
you'll feel like I really disappoint you. But you also knew that I love Gail Simone's Batgirl run, and I
That is
definitely know how you
true.
feel about that. So I don't think
Yes.
you should be
You
surprised.
Yeah, you came in with many X's on the grade sheet there. So, well, we'll forgive you. We are all about redemption here on the podcast. So there we go. Would you like to do the sign off there as most guests do?
Uh,
Until next time.
there we go. Until next time, fly on, Babs lovers.
Woo!